How does the moon cut his hair? Eclipse it. Today for math, we are going to learn how to identify and name angles and how to name triangles by angle size. So a few weeks ago, we learned about intersecting and perpendicular line segments. So we realized that intersecting was like this and perpendicular was like this. When lines intersect, angles are formed. When the space between the intersecting lines is called an angle. So here are some different angles, and I am going to draw some arcs to show the angles, like this. Mathematicians have names to describe the size of different angles. Today you will learn the 3 special names that mathematicians use to describe angles. These names are acute, right, and obtuse. Which of these angles on the board looks like the corner of a square? Exactly, this one right here. And it is called a right angle. Right here is a right angle. What kinds of lines make right angles? Perpendicular lines. Which of the angles on the board is smaller than a right angle? Exactly, this one right here. Some people remember that the word acute means small by thinking of a cute, small dog. So far with our fingers, let's make a right angle. And now let's make an acute angle. So I'm going to write acute right here. Which of the angles on the board is larger than a right angle? This one right here, and this is called an obtuse angle. Use your fingers to show what an obtuse angle will look like. So it looks like this. Now you're going to have a chance to identify acute, right, and obtuse angles. So I want you to get the worksheet that says 113A at the top. And on that paper, you've got all these different squares with letters at the top. I want you to pause this video and cut out all the squares. And I'm also going to have you do this. I'm going to have you get a scrap piece of paper. I have this postcard that I got in the mail. And because we're not at school, we would use our little square angles that we have, those little squares. But we are not at school, obviously, so I am just going to cut this out, just like this. So we have a square that we can use. Once you have all the angles cut out, you should have 12. You should have 12 of these squares. And we are going to put these into 3 different piles. We're going to put the right angles in one pile, the obtuse angles in another pile, and the acute angles in the 3rd pile. Now, we're also going to use our square. And if I'm not sure if an angle is an acute, right, or obtuse, I'm going to line my square up right there in the corner, just like this. And I can see that this line goes a little bit further down. So that tells me this is an obtuse. So I'm going to put B in the obtuse. Now I'm going to look at T, and I'm going to line up one of the sides just like this, and I can see that this line goes way, way in. So this tells me that T is an acute. So I'm going to put that in the acute pile. Then I've got this one, and this is O. And if I fit my square in here, I can see that it fits just right. So O is a right angle. Now some of these get a little tricky, and if you really have a hard time, you can hold it up to the light and compare. So go ahead, pause this video, and divide your squares into acute, right, and obtuse. And then once you've done that, start the video back up. How many right angles do you have? How many did you find? You should have found 2. And those 2 are O and R. So if you don't have O and R in the right angle pile, go ahead and do this now. How many acute angles did you come up with? You should have come up with 5. And those 5 are A, C, E, T, and U. How many obtuse angles do you have? You should have come up with 5. And they are B, I, L, M, and P. Now we're going to put our angles in order from smallest to largest. And that's when you're going to have to hold them up to the light and sort of compare to see. If you have 2 that are really close, for example, I and R, I'm going to get the angles together and I'm going to hold them up to the light to see. So go ahead and pause and order these from smallest to largest angles. All right, now that you've done that, let's see if you got them correct. The smallest one is A, then C, U, T, E, O, R, B, L, I, M, and P. P is the largest. Now, I want you to get out 113B. And we're going to learn to name triangles by using angle names. If a triangle has a right angle, it's called a right triangle. Which angle looks like it might be a right angle? Right here, C. So I'm going to use my little square that I cut out and see if it fits in there. And yes, it does. So I am going to make a small square inside angle C to show that it's a right angle. What do we call a triangle that has a right angle? It's called a right triangle. If a triangle has an obtuse angle, it's called an obtuse triangle. Which angle looks like it might be an obtuse angle? Right, H. Let's put our square in there. And is it wider? Yes, it is. So we are going to write obtuse for an obtuse triangle. And we're going to write a capital O here for obtuse. If the triangle only has acute angles, it's called an acute triangle. Find a triangle that has only acute angles. Right here, and we're going to write an A in each of those. And we're going to write acute. What other types of angles do you see in the right triangle? How about B? Right, that's acute. What about A? That's also acute. What other types of angles do you see in the obtuse? G is acute, and so is I. Very good. Today in math, we learn how to identify and name triangles and how to name triangles by angle size.